Hi everyone. I'm not sure if this is my first or second video this week because I just made another one, but then I realized I had something else I wanted to say, and I don't know if it sort of slipped by. It's in the Mentor's comments this week when it talks about the great chain of being, and this point that I think is a very key one actually, and perhaps more significant than we all certainly than I initially realized. And that is this idea of the two aspects of God, or the two aspects of the absolute, whatever we call it. Um, According to the great chain of being, but the great chain of being, according to Ken Wilber, like we've said, is drawn from all traditions, all of the wisdom traditions of the world, of course, excluding science, but and and so that the two aspects of God, the two aspects of divinity, being one, and I think these two aspects have names. For example, in Hinduism, Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman. One being the sort of God that's above and beyond creation itself, right? So that there's a place that every creation originally comes from. We call it the ground of being, perhaps, which is actually not really involved in it. It's transcendent. Okay, so there's and much of esoteric religion and spirituality has to do with achieving realization of that transcendent truth, the transcendent divinity. It's an ascent from our level to this level where we get it, that something that beyond all of this, and in some ways, perhaps you might say even indifferent to all of this, a God that's above and beyond our mundane world, our material world, and beyond all qualities that we could, all qualities and all conceptual notions. And that's the God that's sort of achieved by saying, God's not this, it's not that, it's not whatever you think, it's not that. And until you've gotten rid of every possible notion, and until you actually experience it beyond notions, beyond all notions. And so that's an aspect of divinity, and it's I would say probably the dominant, and especially in Western religious traditions, it's the idea is an ascent, to have that experience. But there is also widely recognized another aspect of God, which is the immanent aspect of divinity, the God involved in this world, the God of evolution, the God involved in all change, sparking Shiva and Shakti, God and very much involved in all of life, coursing through life, coursing through the material, this world. And we saw that sort of contrast going from St. Augustine to Thomas Aquinas, where he's like, you can read read the book of nature. He's talking about the immanent God, not the transcendent version of God. And I think in most traditions you have this idea that there's really these two aspects of God, and this immanent God is the one that's involved in creation, in the descent from spirit to matter, in the creation of matter. And so you can see, perhaps, I don't know, that we've been seeing a kind of twofold division throughout this course. We talk about science and spirit, or science and religion, but we also talked about the rational versus the intuitive. There's been a kind of a twofold division going all the way through. And now we come to this aspect of this two aspects of this time where we have two aspects of God. And my question, I guess, is it, well, how closely is it related to this division? Science, of course, is reading the book of nature. And scientism is exclusively reading the book of nature. It's not concerned with the transcendent God. So, but there are many forms of spirituality that are concerned with the book of nature and with the transcendent God. And as Thomas Aquinas was, actually, I believe. So, so that this idea of the great chain of being, in a way, encompasses what has happened, and it gives us a way to be involved in change and evolution of this world. That you know, to be with the sort of divine involved in this world is one way would be to take an evolutionary perspective. We're involved in evolution. We're involved with God in creating this world, and that would be one way to go forward with this. And science would be presumably a part of that. One would have to say, you know, reading the book of nature. But that book of nature would also include a kind of divinity that's present here. Now, that it's a little bit odd to have that divinity present here without the transcendent one as well. So, but you can give me your comments on that, how you feel about those two aspects. But they are extremely, that idea is extremely rooted and present in the world's wisdom traditions. And so therefore we could look, if we chose, look at science as a part of this second aspect of divinity, this second aspect of God. If we wanted to go that way towards an integration of science and spirit, we could do. And so that's sort of coming out in this week. Now, from the point of view of our ascent towards the transcendent, then what role does science play there? And I'm not sure that it does play a role in an ascent towards your realization of one's realization of the transcendent. But it sure could play a role in our reading the book of nature and recognizing divinity in this world. So I think it's an interesting perspective to have, and I don't know what your guys' experience has to say about that sort of twofold. Two kinds of experience. Personally, my own spiritual experiences have been much more of the immanent aspect of divinity, I would say. Not much not much in the way of complete transcendence. I mean, I think I've intuited it perhaps to some degree, but certainly not a full experience, not unity with the divine or anything like that. My form of spirituality, my form of spiritual experience involves very much seeing God in this world, especially in nature, and so it's this immanent. It's really an experience of what would be labeled as an immanent kind of divinity, immanent kind of spirituality. But I don't know what the experience of you guys is. Just got a hummingbird at the flower in front of me, so that's telling me, it's giving me a yes on this. It's saying yes, that's anyway. Just anyway, throwing that out as perhaps additional food for thought in what you're writing about this weekend or what you're thinking about. Okay, thanks.